Today's episode is brought to you by Hinshaw Trailer Sales of Richland, Iowa, the Packwood Locker and Smithburg Auto of Fairfield, Iowa, as well as the Cedar Rapids Titans Arena football team, as we're giving out Player of the Game awards, getting 2 tickets to the Cedar Rapids Titans from now on. We're talking to Coach Shellman of the Van Buren Warriors, who got a great big win last night. Welcome program, Coach.
Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, tell our listeners who you played and what the final score was.
Yeah, last night we played Fairfield. That's a good quality 3A team. We were able to pull away with the victory, 66-65. The final score might have been a tad bit closer than what it really was throughout the process of the game. I did think we quite had control of the whole game, but we had a lot of momentum leading into it, and towards the stretch we kind of stalled out and didn't want to foul, so we let them kind of get a couple easy buckets to make it a 1-point game. But with a team that's been struggling this year on the offensive and defensive end, we'll take any win we can get it. And like I said earlier, it was a good quality win against a good quality opponent in a 3A school that's a lot bigger than us as well.
Well, you've been battling quite a bit. We got to see you play really well against a 3A school in Fort Madison where you hung in there real good, shot a bunch of threes. It was preseason, and you weren't mid-season form by any stretch of the imagination. We saw you in a couple other games this year. We did the scrimmage against Lone Tree, and that's where you looked sharp. That's where you looked like you looked last night. The passing was crisp. The rebounding was excellent. The communication between the players was great. And everybody's been kind of waiting for you guys to put the full package together, the 4 quarters, the offense, the defense, the transition, and it all came together last night, didn't it?
Yeah, we've been a tale of two teams. We've either competed really well as a team, and we've had multiple guys in double figure scoring, and that's something that we know coming into the season that we were going to need to be competitive in these games. And then we have the other side of the coin where sometimes we only have one guy going, and then we kind of look pretty bad as far as in the box scores in the paper. And so, when we put it all together, we're a really scary team where we think we can beat anyone any given night. And like you mentioned, preseason form, we knew that. Then we kind of started getting a little bit of inter team issues that we've been working throughout the season. And every coach has kind of a little bit of a reset button during Christmas break that allows us to really look at your team in the mirror and being able to kind of work on things that you haven't been able to work on. And so Christmas break hit us at a really good time to be able to work on things that are going to help us down the stretch here in the second half of the season. And when we were able to scrimmage Lone Tree, that was kind of the starting point for us. And we have to start the conference schedule after the first of the year with West Burlington and Notre Dame, some of the 2 best teams in the conference. And so the final score didn't look as good as maybe what it could have, but at the same time, we were able to compete a lot harder and a lot better. And when we played West Burlington or Notre Dame last Friday, we were actually at it as a 5-point game going into the end of the first quarter, and then they kind of got ahead of us and ran away with it down the stretch. But for a team that's still young yet, we start three juniors, and I just lost one of my seniors as a starter for the rest of the year with a hurt foot in Lincoln Bainbridge. And so we're going to get even younger as far as the season goes on, but we're going to get more mature. And I think our competitive spirit will still put us in those positions to maybe squeak out a little bit more wins here down the next couple weeks.
Well, what about this win? What does that do for you? You guys, it's no secret you needed to win. You needed to get a win somewhere, some way, somehow. How much did that do for your confidence? And what was kind of the atmosphere maybe on that bus ride home?
That win's huge for us. We haven't had a win since clear back in the early part of December. And so to be able to go, like I said, to a large school and play in a lot larger gym and a lot larger crowd really helps, especially with the momentum for us. We actually have 7 games in 10 days. And so we turn around, that momentum from last night can lead us right into tonight's game where we play New London, who picked up their first win of the season on Saturday. So they have a lot of good momentum coming into tonight. And then we turn around and play on Friday and Saturday this week. And so, that momentum, especially with a bunch of high school kids, especially when they're younger, and gaining that momentum is huge for us. And we hope that we can turn the corner here.
Okay. Who did New London get the win on Saturday?
They beat a really, really good Waco team.
They beat Waco?
They did. Watching some film, there's a lot of good things that New London did that they've historically have struggled at, and Waco definitely had an off night as far as some of their key players weren't maybe showing up as much as they'd like. And but a win's a win for New London, and you know that they're going to be ready for us when essentially at the moment right now it's a battle for last place in the South of the Super Conference.
Well, that's an exciting matchup for you tonight. Yeah, I was really every coach I talked to, it just seemed like New London was on the verge of a win there. That's interesting. They played a conference matchup on Saturday.
Yeah, it's technically a cross division just because Waco's in the
Oh,
north
in the
part of
north
the
and the south deal.
conference.
Okay, I get
Yeah.
it. And but well, that's very interesting. It was a little recently. There was some big upsets. You got an upset there, and I'm going to say that's a big one. Lone Tree picks up a big like 20-point win over 6-4 English Valley. So yeah, and well, what about that? You know what I mean? And one of the things I started to think last night watching you guys was, you know what? You play a lot of basketball. You know, anybody that plays night after night after night is just going to keep getting a little better and a little better and a little better, and everything kind of comes together. And all the teams get dangerous here towards the middle and towards the end of the season, don't they?
Yeah, it's kind of a cliche saying, but as a coach, you're striving to hit your best stride at the end of the season when you hit district play in that middle part of February, and so you obviously want to be hitting your top potential come then, and that's something that you always just kind of got to preach with the kids. It's a long season. Basketball is a game of runs, and there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, and you just got to ride the wave the best you can. And so the ultimate goal is to get better each and every night. Obviously, when you have a young squad, the best way you can get better is to play as much basketball as possible and work on the things that you still struggle with. But in the meantime, the most experience you can gain is by throwing them out to the dogs. And the last few years, unfortunately, we've been a really young team, and we're gaining that experience and we're gaining that momentum. And I think this will be the next couple weeks will be a good kind of uphill battle for us to get to the highest stride for us, like I mentioned, for the Southeast Iowa Super Conference shootout, but most importantly, the district game.
Well, you got off to a pretty good start last night. How important was that for you to kind of get them on their heels early and build some confidence with your guys?
It's huge. Like I mentioned earlier, we knew we were going to have multiple kids in double figures in order for us to be competitive and put ourselves in a winning situation. However, the most important thing to us is on the defensive end. When we do lose, we're giving up 80 points a game, and we know that it's pretty hard to win a high school game in the 80s. And so to be able to focus on getting our defense going definitely leads into our offense. And to be able to have a good team win where we had a lot of people in the scoring column and we had a lot of people in double figures for us last night, that's huge, like I mentioned, for a young team like us.
Well, doesn't sound like, I mean, I watched the game. I didn't see one guy totally dominating. I seen a real team effort, good distribution, and really good rebounding. Tell us a little bit about maybe the scoring leaders last night for you.
Yeah, we had Will Corll. He's been a good leader for us for the last few years. He led the way with 18 points last night. I haven't looked at all the stats as far as rebounds and assists goes, but he was one of those kids that can play all five spots on the floor. And last night he really capitalized on playing more the 4 and 5 guy versus the 1 and 2, based on his size approach. And so Will had a really good game. You didn't really see him doing too much flashy things, but he just did his job and he did it well for us last night. Landry Leffler ended up with 17 points, but he hit a really key. We were up 2 points with a minute 30 some left in the game, and he had a huge three in the corner for us to propel us up 5, which ended up being just enough to keep the win for us. And so he hit a couple good free throws down the stretch and hit that big three for us. And so he's one of those kids that if I had to give a player of the game, he's the one that deserves it. We know all year long that he's a kid that's capable of doing stuff like that. He's struggled here shooting in the last couple of weeks, but he's really been putting in a lot of time and energy and effort to be better and knows his full potential. And I think last night really showed that. And another kid in the same boat as Landry is Kinnick Miller. He finished with like 15 points last night, hit a couple good shots for us down the stretch, and he's a kid that's has a little bit of he kind of rides his waves a little too much at times. He's either playing really well or not playing well at all. And so we know he's fully capable of being a good leader for us. I think last night really showed his potential as well. Another kid I'd like to throw out a little bit of credit to is Cree Kite. He's a sophomore. He's really come on strong for us. He's more of a 4 or 5 guy. He's really been hitting the boards tough for us, and he's going to be huge down the stretch since we did lose Lincoln Baber, just key senior that was our second leading rebounder on the team. And so Cree did a really good job for us last night. I'm excited, especially on number 40, the Zillman kid, who can jump out of the gym, super good high jumper, and he dunked it like 6 times on us last night.
Yeah,
super athletic kid.
I literally think he gets his head above the rim.
He's one of the most athletic kids that I've seen. He's not much over probably 6'1", 6'2", but he jumps like he's a 7-footer. I can tell you that. And it's nice. It's cool to see a nice, Southeast Iowa kid to be that athletic. And he's nothing flashy or anything, but he can just jump up and grab her and throw it in like a grown man. And so he did give us a lot of credit, a lot of fits last night. But like I mentioned, Cree Kite really held his own and did a really good job and got us key rebounds down the stretch. And he also hit a lot of free throws. And so one positive thing as a team that we did last night is we shot our free throws and we shot them well in the games. We've struggled this year. We're only shooting about 58% in practices, and we've been working hard. We shoot a lot of free throws, and we know we're better than our percentage shows. And once again, I think last night we could definitely see that, and that really was probably the most important point of us winning was hitting our free throws.
Well, I see team after team win because they hit free throws, especially down the stretch. Really, it almost I'm not discounting the rest of the game, but it only seems like it matters what you do in the last 2 minutes of the game, whether you're going to win or lose. You got to play good in that last couple minutes. And we talk about these free throws and how important they are, because if you make one less free throws, that game goes into overtime, and maybe you don't win the game. What about some of the little things? Tell me about some of those little things that happened last night that lets you get that 1-point win.
One of the most important little things that ends up actually being a lot bigger than what it really is turnovers. For a team that struggled this year, we've had a lot of turnovers in those games that look lopsided to us, where last night we didn't turn the ball over as much as what we did. And so when you start looking at just kind of slicing and dicing of what gets you in winning position and what doesn't, and you start looking at your turnovers and your free throws, those small things just add up huge. But for a team that's really undersized like us, where our tallest kid's maybe 6'1", 6'2", if you give him his long curly hair on top, rebounding is huge. You don't get a lot of, the people that always end up getting interviewed after the game from the reporters are the kids that score 17 to 20 points a game. The kid that gets the 15, 20 boards a game sometimes gets overshadowed. And like I mentioned earlier, I think Cree Kite and even Kinnick Miller last night was one of our biggest leaders by just getting rebounds and not turning the ball over for us. And so, some people may look at that as a big thing, which it is, but last night it was kind of one of those where that was a small thing that turned into a big important aspect for us.
Yeah. Well, rebounding, and I know you don't got all the numbers and everything tallied up, but and I don't know whether a kid's got a nose for a ball or just has an idea where to stand, but man, there are a lot of black jerseys coming down with the ball, and you'd think Fairfield had some height advantage over you, not a tremendous, but they did have the bigger kids, but the smaller kids were coming down with the ball. Do you practice that? Is it just dumb luck, or what's the deal on getting rebounds? Why did you get so many of them?
Yeah, we work on rebounding a lot. I'd say every practice that we have, we're working on rebounding, especially for a team that we have historically struggled the last few years where we're only getting one shot and done, or the other team's getting multiple chances to score. And so, we work on it significantly. However, last night, I think the kids really wanted to compete and they really knew that we had a chance to win that game. And so they were doing anything and everything that possible to get those rebounds and being able to get and since we were undersized, they really were able to get a body on a guy and be able to get a good rebound. And so I think there was just a lot of aspects, us working on it. You can maybe throw in some dumb luck on two, but at the end of the day, I definitely believe that we've won the rebound battle, and that was another one of those maybe small things that turned into our success last night.
All right. Anything else about this game you want to talk about?
Not really. It was just a good team win for us, with a team that's a good 3A school. They may not have as many wins as they'd like, but that's a good quality opponent for us. It's a good win for us, and we just hope for that momentum for tonight.
Well, you get a big win. New London gets a big win just prior to this matchup tonight. But this matchup tonight is huge with New London. Is it home or away?
It's at New London tonight.
So you got to travel over there to New London. Have you played them once already?
Yep, we that's one of our wins from the season. We won by a 4-point game early in the season, and I think New London's a better team than people give credit for. They're super athletic. They got the Franklin kid, the brothers, and then they got the Porter kid as well. And so they're a super athletic team that I think is more athletic than what their win-loss shows, and it's going to be a tough matchup for us tonight.
Well, I mean, you guys, New London, and you also, your opponents are Notre Dame and Meepo and Central E and Holy Trinity and West Burlington. I mean, those teams are really, really, really good. I think if you was in the North, maybe it'd be a different story. I don't know if you'd be winning it, but I think your teams that would have better luck, an easier schedule by a long ways. So, well, let's talk about that last game. What was, how did you stretch out this 4-point win? Was it offense? Was it defense? What was the flow of the game? How did what do you think was the 4 points that you got to win? Was it just the home court?
It really was. Unfortunately, as far as the home court advantage, we actually had there was a mishap when we played New London at home where two of our officials that were scheduled to be there didn't even show up. And so we were able to pull one of the JV officials from the previous game that had ref 2 games before that into helping out with the crew. And then there was a spectator that was a certified official that was able to help ref 2. And so we essentially had one main official and 2 subs coming in. I mean, so things got a little bit more out of control than what they really should have been when we played New London the first time, and which maybe made that game a lot closer to one way or another as well. But one reason we were able to come across with the win there is just our kids were really feeding off of our student section. That was really beneficial for us that night, and our crowd was really into the game. And so I do really feel like our home court advantage was important to us that night. And hopefully our crowd travels well tonight so we can have the same success.
Well, their coach is Swanson. I think there must be some kind of regulation where at least 15% of the coaches have to be named Swanson. Central East Swanson, and then you got a Swanson there at Pekin, and then I even know a Swanson coach in Muscatine. So there's a lot of these Swansons around, and you're going up against Swanson tonight. But last year and the years before, they had a legendary coach named Coach Porter, and he has a son that still plays on this team. And I hear a lot of good things about him. Tell me a little bit about this Porter kid.
Yeah, he's the best player on their team. They have a lot of good players as far as the Franklin brothers too, and then the Swanson's his son as well. And so, but Porter, he's a very athletic kid. He's really good on the track, the oval as well. But he's a kid that's so quick and has a good dribble that he's got a spot which is on the elbow that he really likes to hit a pull up on. And so he's one that the team looks to take a lot of shots for. He's the leader, you could tell, on the court, and when they do really well, it's because he's doing really well. And if you watch the Waco tape, he had a really strong game and really led the way for them along with the London Franklin. And so he's a kid that you could tell is just a super good kid. His dad was a super good guy and a good coach as well, and you could tell obviously that's translated into his work ethic. And then, like I mentioned, we just have to make sure that we key on him to be able to limit him, so we were able to come away with the win.
Well, congratulations on the win last night. You got the New London game tonight, and then you got 2 more games this week too?
That's correct. We play Mediapolis at home on Friday, and then we go to Davis County on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we turn around and play Columbus Junction on Monday. And then I don't know who we play on Tuesday, but we have a game on Tuesday. So, like I mentioned earlier, we're kind of hitting a gauntlet here, and we'll see what this team's made of.
Well, you got to a good start of the week. You had a dang good Monday, and you've been working hard. You do have a pretty good quality team, and the kids that play together, and they're playing at a high level of basketball. And I think they may have achieved their zenith this season so far in the game last night, where they really, really did play well, and they get a hard fought win over a much bigger Fairfield school. I'm happy about Fairfield playing Van Buren and playing Pekin. I wish that was just a regular thing that always happened, because gosh, that gate must have been good last night, I would have thought.
Yeah, and that's the game that the last few years we've gone on the bus and gone clear up to West Liberty, which is like a 2-hour bus ride, and it was kind of one of those that's like surely we can find a good quality opponent that's closer to home. And our girls have been playing the Fairfield team for the last few years, and so it was kind of a no-brainer to be able to get them on the schedule for us this year. And it just worked out that we were going to Fairfield. But when you don't have to go that far away from home to be able to play a good team like that, and it gets everyone better, that's a win-win in everybody's book. And a lot of the grandparents are able to make the trip to Fairfield from Keosauqua. And so,
Yeah, the
yeah, no,
older
that was
people can
definitely a
get
good game
there,
for us.
and everybody can get home, and a lot of people work, and they had to get to bed, but they can't be getting home at 11:30 at night and stuff. But I like it. I like the local matchups. That's what I just like, and I don't really care so much about the classifications. I just think it's great when two schools that are close together, because the gate's always going to be good and be a good experience for everybody. It was a good experience for the Van Buren Warriors. I feel like I'm just talking your head off. Well, congratulations on this outstanding win, and good luck tonight. And we'll try to, we've been getting a good dose of that Van Buren Warriors on Round Guy Radio this year. And every time we do it, we pick up more and more followers, and the numbers were good. Numbers are real good last night. Over 100 people have already watched that game, just the JV game. I'll ask you a little bit about the JV game. Now, Coach Consul looked like he had about 20 or 25. Or he had a first team, a second team, a third team, a fourth team, maybe even a fifth team. I don't know over there, but you just had 6 guys. It did seem like you did the best you could to give everybody a little spot. They didn't win, but they fought tenaciously the whole time, and it just seemed like as the game went on, they played better and better and better. How did you manage a 6-man squad and get everybody a little bit of rest? How do you do it and try to still be as effective towards winning as you can?
Right. We started out the season with 21 kids, and throughout the process, we're kind of down to about 15 playable kids for the whole program through injuries or ineligibility because of classes. And so, that JV squad's down to 6, and they're maybe not the most talented kids, but they play their hearts out, and so
Man,
they
they
get
do that.
themselves they get themselves in position to win just because of how hard they play. And you can't be more proud of that as a coach, or in this case for Coach Starnes as the JV coach. But yeah, we're down to 6 players, and actually on Friday night they ended up playing with a 4 for the last minute and a half because we had 2 kids foul out. But given those kids that are a little bit more raw in the talent pool at the moment, to getting them the experience of the JV game and giving those kids that need the minutes has been really beneficial. And so some coaches may look at they only want to play 2 quarters as far as the JV game goes, and we don't value that as a coaching staff. We want to give them as much experience and
They,
game time as possible. And so we're going to play 4 quarters as much as we possibly can. And sometimes the score, like last night, where they have a lot of subs and are able to kind of wear us down throughout the game, does wear on us. But it also is a good learning portion, as for the kids and for the coaching staff, as far as the value of keeping kids fresh if we have the opportunity. But yeah, those JV kids, they haven't had a chance to, they've won a couple games, but they've been in a position to compete in every game. And a lot of times it does come down to them just kind of getting worn out at the end of the game. But, that's they're kind of setting the foundation for the next couple years of how hard we have the potential to be. And once we kind of grow into their bodies as those freshman classes, I think we can compete with about any team in Southeast Iowa. Last night Fairfield has a lot of kids, and they're able to have a freshman team, a JV team, and a varsity team. They only had 2 freshmen on their JV team last night out of all the 20 kids that were sitting on the bench. where we had 4 freshmen out of those 6 play in that game. And so, we were very underclassed and understaffed too last night, but for them to go out there and compete hard, you can't ask for much more as a coach.
Well, you tell them boys from me, I like their tenacity. I like their hustle. I like the way they go for loose balls. I like the way they rebound. And I like the way they keep plucking away no matter what the score is. And I'm impressed. I'm impressed with them. And we may not be done getting Van Buren on the schedule there. I wish I was there tonight. I that might be the most key matchup tonight. Well, Coach, I better let you get back to whatever it was you're doing before I started chewing your ear off here. But thanks for taking some time to be with us this week. Congratulations on getting the team going again, and good luck tonight. Good luck the rest of the week. Thanks for being with us. Was there anything we didn't get to talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Nope. Thanks for covering Van Buren County sports, and thanks for having me.
All right.